You should watch Regular Show. If you like, on the list of American shows, I don't even know if shows in America can be called American. Cut that out, please. Hello, listeners, and thank you for tuning into Those Nerds Over There. This is an enthusiast podcast centered around celebrating and discussing nerd culture. We're your hosts. I'm Alan.
And I'm Sal.
And, oh my goodness, the craziness of last week is finally,
dying down?
Yeah, there we go.
Yes, we are. Well, I had to jump right back into work after.
That's true.
That was the worst mistake of my life. I wish I had taken the next day off because we were recording the podcast and it was 1 a.m. and I was like, great, I need to be up for work in 3 hours.
Yeah, oh my goodness. I remember in between, you were just dying and you're like, nah, man, let's just get through it.
We're gonna finish this.
But I like how it turned out, so thank you, Sal. You're you're a trooper.
Thank you. While we were recording that, E3 happened.
Yes, that was crazy. There was just so much going on in one weekend, and I was about to burst at the seams.
Yeah, unfortunately, we didn't get a chance to talk about it then because of all our amazing Las Vegas Comic-Con coverage. But we definitely followed E3, so if you happen to be on our Discord or whatever, we were talking about it there, and so much happened. So we're gonna take this moment at the beginning of this podcast to talk about what we were excited about a little bit. So, Alan?
Yes. Oh, my goodness. I think the 2 to 3 big things for me were Fire Emblem 3 Houses.
Of course.
But I know it's on a blacklist for you right now.
Yes, I have it blacklisted. Just like Kingdom Hearts, I don't want to know what happens. So much information about this game is already out, and I feel like if I look at it, I'm just going to go into the game knowing everything. And I don't want that. I want to experience it.
Lame. Well, listeners, any of you guys that are Fire Emblem fanatics, please message me, especially if you're a Catherine fan.
Especially if you got that good Edelgard art.
Oh my god, yes, especially Edelgard. After that E3 trailer, I'm like, definitely starting with Edelgard. She is queen.
Yes.
Number 2, Borderlands 3 trailer.
Yeah. Which is... Did we get a release date before?
Yes.
Oh, okay. I feel like...
I'm pretty sure we did. I remember something about November.
Okay. Well, I guess I didn't realize that, because when the release date was announced with that trailer, I was like, oh crap, that's way sooner than I thought.
Yeah, right? So, I mean, later this year, this is maybe Game of the Year, preemptively calling it. But no, Borderlands 3, just take a moment, Borderlands is one of those franchises where it's just, the hype just keeps building and building, and, it pays off for me. And for the E3 trailer, it was great, because they show, one of our characters from the first game, who's an NPC now, and she's lost her siren powers. It's that thing we had been talking about Arya, where, she's a badass because she's a badass, right? Because it's her.
Right.
And for Lilith, she was one of the sirens in the game, and she's lost her siren powers, but we see in the trailer, she's still a badass because it's Lilith. And that got me super excited.
Nice.
And then the third thing I got excited about was, of course, Pokemon.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I know. There's been a lot of flack actually surrounding Pokemon right now, but and I think for good reason.
Wait, what's the flack?
So they've announced that they're no longer putting in the national decks for Sword and Shield. So all the Pokemon in the game is all the Pokemon in the game. So you might not get, say, Pokemon from previous generations even showing up if they're not in the Galar region.
Was it not like that before?
No, you could get, the whole tag of, like, gotta catch them all. You could get every Pokemon, either through trading or stuff from previous games. And,
Oh,
yeah,
right.
You can't do that anymore, apparently, for Sword and Shield.
Oh, you can't trade or anything?
Not from previous games.
Oh, that's strange.
It is strange, and a lot of people are, like, really, really, really angry about it. And I do, like I said, I think fairly, because people have a lot of favorites from previous generations. Legit, like, favorites that they would die for.
Yeah, and that's kind of the whole point of the game.
Right,
to
but, like...
catch them all.
Yeah, no, that's why, like I said, I get it, but... I'm gonna say, like, hey, I'm gonna try and trust the Pokemon Company. This is the Pokemon Company. I'm gonna wait for it to come out, and if it's hot garbage, then we know. But I'm willing to trust that they are knowing at least somewhat what they're doing, considering how far along we are in the Pokemon timeline.
Yeah, that's fair. For us casual players, which is me and not you, I don't tend to care about catching all the Pokemon, but if I can't have my Eevees, then I'm probably gonna riot, so...
Oh my god, that just reminded me of just like, I'm a lunatic trying to get that. I'm not as crazy, because there are people that try to do a shiny living dex.
Oh dear God.
Yeah, I'm like, oh my goodness. So
I have never even gotten one shiny, okay?
Whoa, never?
Never!
Oh my goodness, Sal. Oh, I've got a story. The first shiny I ever saw that wasn't the red Gyarados was in my sister's Emerald game. It was a shiny Mighty Yina. And the moment the battle started, it used Roar and fled.
No way.
Yes, and to add insult to injury, there's a news reporter in the game that likes to cover you, the player. And for some reason, meeting shiny Pokemon qualifies to get on the news, and it just told, like, hey, they saw a really rare Pokemon, and it left. I'm like, oh.
That's fantastic.
So angry.
Wow. All right.
Yeah, those were the three things from... Kingdom Hearts, the DLC was announced, but, like, I don't know. It's even more mystery on top of the insanity. And Kingdom Hearts 3 was great, so I'm...
Fair.
Yeah. I don't know why there's so much, like, apathy in that. But what'd you get excited about?
So for me, I mean, basically everything Nintendo. I love the heck out of Nintendo, and I think they killed it.
Just murdering everywhere. All the
just
people.
Just murder. Yes. Everywhere. From Luigi's Mansion to the freaking new DLC for Smash, which I'm so hyped about.
I can't
believe we finally got Banjo-Kazooie. I've been waiting so long for this moment.
I didn't know you were such a rare kid until that announcement, and you just like absolutely losing your mind on all social platforms.
It's so great. I love Banjo and Kazooie. Oh man, I remember playing those games as a kid and no one talking about it because everyone played Super Mario 64, which rightfully so, it's a great game, but Banjo and Kazooie was so good. And I thought it was this just gem that I found and it was great. And then I've seen people also loving it and I was like, oh yeah. And now it's like this cult classic, so I'm one of those. But yeah, Nintendo killed it. Everything they put out was great. Square Enix, the Final Fantasy VII remake actually got me really excited because it kind of feels like a Tales game to me at this point.
Yeah, I would say this does not look like a Final Fantasy like turn-based game anymore.
Yeah. So that's got me really excited because it's not that I'm not a fan of turn-based. I love turn-based, but if it was just turn-based again, I was probably gonna skip it because, I mean, I'm not gonna pay for Final Fantasy VII again. I know people think it's the best thing to grace this earth, but not me.
Wow. Sal's hot take.
Yeah.
In the middle of that, you mentioned, and foolishly I forgot, Tales of Arise.
Yeah, Tales of Arise 2, which also looks very different from previous games, at least so far. So I wonder what kind of stuff that's going to be about. And it also reminded me of the anime Guilty Crown,
Nope.
which not a lot of people have seen and wasn't that great anyway. So
Glowing endorsement.
yay! I still love the main character, Nori, because she has pink hair. Anyway, and the last thing that got me excited, other than Cyberpunk, because everyone's talking about Cyberpunk, so I don't need to sing those praises. Xbox and their Xbox, I don't remember what it was called, the Play thing.
Oh, I remember it was their whole bundle of streaming games and their online membership, all that stuff, right?
It was their version of streaming games and their membership. But what got me excited was it's also for PC.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
Yeah. And so in the past, we're talking about how, these companies are, slowly starting to break these boundaries, and this is definitely one of them. You can sign up with Xbox and play games on your PC, and that's super cool.
Death to the console wars.
Yes, please. I mean, that's all I got excited about. There was a lot of great stuff, but, we shouldn't dwell on it too long.
Sorry, just more. July is going to be so stacked already.
Oh yeah, it's going to be great. But anyway, shall we finally jump into our nerd question?
Of course. For first-time listeners, this is what we colloquially call the nut jar. It's a jar we filled with listener-submitted questions. These are really fun discussion questions, and, we throw them out there because it's, fun to talk to you guys about these sometimes funny, sometimes just really, really dumb questions. But if you want to shout out on the show, feel free to send questions to our Twitter at ThoseNerdsCast or our email, thosenerdscast@gmail.com. Oh, the lid fell off.
Ow, that hurt my ears.
I'm so sorry, the lid fell off.
How could you?
Oh, okay.
Defiled the nut jar.
I didn't screw it on right. I'm so sorry. Alright, ooh, okay. So this week's question comes from our friend Sal. I don't know if I should say his name, but Neil.
Oh. You said our friend Sal, and I was like, what? I never submitted a question.
Well, I forgot that Oxford comma.
Yes.
Or whatever.
Need that comma.
So I met Neil through you and Sus, actually. And he's a really good kid.
He is a baby.
Oh, I don't want to demean him, Sal.
I will.
But listeners, Neil's a great guy. He actually started streaming recently, and you can catch him on Twitch, twitch.tv/Jetsum Rainbow King, JETSUMRAINBOWKING. He's kind of actually just been in that experimental streaming phase. I'm sure our listeners that are streamers remember those fond days.
Oh, I remember those fond days. Shortly lived.
Shortly. He's mostly been doing Tekken, and he did a new run of Breath of the Wild, I assume, in anticipation for Breath of the Wild 2.
Breath of the Wild 2! That's right! That game also! Hashtag Nintendo.
I think Breath of the Wild 2 got ruined for me because I saw all the damn people on social media thirsty over Dry Ganon, and then the trailer.
I mean, I'm okay with this.
I it was tainted for me, seeped in sin.
But, the sin was cleansed away by our beautiful goddess, Zelda, with short hair.
Ooh, short hair Zelda. I will. There's our friend Kazel drew a really good short hair Zelda. You guys should check her out on Twitter. But back to Neil.
Yes.
He asks, "What was your gateway anime?"
Ooh, gateway anime.
Yes, I laughed when I saw this because I
fun.
cannot help but think of gateway drug or gateway knife.
For a time, this was years ago, people said that a good gateway anime was Sword Art Online,
What?
and I wanted to murder all of them. Uh, but, I'm a better person now. I just wanted to bring that up because everyone knows SAO isn't great anymore, so hallelujah for that.
It's a great way to start the question.
I'm kidding. If you like SAO, more power to you. But anime segue, because an anime that I usually talk down upon was my first gateway anime,
Whoa.
which is Naruto.
Oh.
Yeah, this was definitely a gateway anime because when I think about gateway anime, I think what kind of got you into anime and wanting to watch more,
Yeah.
not necessarily your first anime.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, because that's what I'm thinking. Otherwise, my gateway would be Pokemon, and that's not what got me to watch anime.
Yeah, because I watched Pokemon, Digimon, Sailor Moon, Shaman King, like all these animes before I watched Naruto. But before I watched Naruto, I didn't really understand the concept of anime. I just thought it was cartoons. So definitely Naruto. I give it a lot of crap, but it was so good for its time. And, when you avoid all the filler episodes, it's not bad. Definitely. I remember staying up, just like doing all-nighters, staying up till the sun came up, just binge watching like 20 episodes of Naruto a day.
Oh my god.
Yeah, until I caught up, which was, it took me a while to catch up, because by then, well, they haven't even made it to Shippuden when I started, but it was pretty far up there, and I remember just loving the crap out of that anime, and after watching it, when I had to wait for episodes to come out, I just needed to watch some other anime. Like, it was like a drug. I just needed my fix to hold me over to the next new episode of Naruto.
Oh my god. I didn't...
Yes.
Alright, maybe gateway was the right word.
So, from there, I started watching Bleach, and, I can't think of anything else right now because I watched so many. Full Metal Alchemist, Inuyasha, Fooly Cooly, Cowboy Bebop, Trigun, the list goes on. I just needed a new anime to watch. And back then, it was very limited because you had either terrible fan subs with terrible quality, or you had Toonami, which only came on, or Toonami and Adult Swim, which only came on usually like at 1 a.m.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, every one of those animes you listed was on those Toonami Adult Swim blocks.
Yeah. So it wasn't easy to get anime back then. What was your gateway anime?
So like you, there was a few animes I'd watched that weren't my gateway anime, but I think like my first anime was Sailor Moon, just because my sister watched it.
Uh-huh.
And I had no idea what the fuck was going on in that show.
Right.
But I think the first anime that really like resonated with me was actually 2001's Fruits Basket.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Well, it's I don't know, because before that there was Pokemon and Digimon, all that stuff, like you said, but like nothing. Those were just like watching for fun. It was watching Fruits Basket and ended up being multiple times because we had them on DVD. That it was a show I ended up loving so much, and when it came out here in 2019, I freaked the fuck out. And I can look back now here in 2019 and say, wow, man, it's because of Fruits Basket that I really got into these anime that are much better than just cartoons, people.
It's funny that you mention that Fruits Basket was your gateway anime because it's very slice of life. And from what you can tell of all the anime I listed, I did not like that genre when I was first starting out.
You weren't given a lot of like good or options in general.
True, but it took me so long to actually sit down and watch an anime that was about, just normal high schoolers. Well, normal quotation marks. Because I was like, well, this is boring. There's nothing. I need supernatural. I need people with powers and action. So
That's fair. Like, no, there's definitely none of that in Fruits Basket.
yeah. But like Fruits Basket, I mean, I've only seen the most recent one, but it's so good. And slice of life anime in general is like really good. And I don't think people give it the chance it deserves.
It might be that we're old now, so the themes in slice of life animes are more resonant.
Maybe.
But strangely enough, after the gateway was opened to me by Fruits Basket, I went to shonen anime. I started watching Naruto and Inuyasha, all that stuff you listed on the on the night block.
But of course, not much else to watch. I can't even remember a slice of life being aired on there, so
on Toonami and Adult Swim.
Yeah.
No, I don't think that their target demo is that. Well, although nowadays they have Bob's Burgers on there, and that's basically American slice of life anime.
But yeah, anime, great.
We're two anime obsessed people because of these gateway animes.
And we would definitely like to know what your gateway anime was.
Yes, I wonder, because Gig released a video about this with like how modern anime, there isn't the idea of classics or something was the topic. And I wonder, like, people nowadays, what's their gateway anime?
Yeah, it's probably all over the place. You ask people our age and they're gonna give you around all the same kind of answers. You ask kids these days and it's probably just, it might even be an anime you've never heard of, which is kind of mind-blowing.
That how popular anime has gotten? Yeah, like, who... My family still kind of does this where it's like, oh, it's just cartoons, but who would have thought these cartoons would become like cultural phenomenons?
Yeah.
But listeners, please let us hear what your gateway anime was. Alright, before we move on, we wanted to take this moment to thank our patrons. Hi Eloy, hi Johnny.
Hello.
Thank you so much. It's because of you guys that we get to make this show, that we get to take this time out of our week to really enjoy the things we love, so we thank you.
Alright, Alan.
So,
what did you get excited about this week?
Alright, so what I got excited about was something I never thought would become a thing. But it's hot right now. It's called Infinity Train.
Yes, I have heard of this.
Cool. I just wanted to check. I know when you say something that I know, I get really excited about it, and I do that horrible thing where I interrupt you.
Well, I heard about it, and I watched the trailer, and I thought it looked interesting. But I guess just like you, I was like, I don't think this is gonna be a thing for very long. But then I watched the little clip, and then I seen that it got greenlit, so I was like, oh, okay, I'm down for this.
Yeah, oh my god, it got greenlit, and maybe I shouldn't be so surprised because the short was very good, but information on the show. So, Infinity Train is a new show now coming to Cartoon Network, created by Owen Dennis. He is a former writer and storyboarder for Regular Show, and he actually storyboarded some of my favorite episodes. I know you haven't seen Regular Show, Sal, and you don't plan to.
I have seen a couple episodes, and I dislike it.
Regular Show is amazing. If you like themes of like found family and stuff, that's the whole show is littered with that.
It's fine.
Meh.
Go watch Gumball.
Gumball's great too. But Infinity Train. So the show started as a short that premiered November 1st, 2016. It was on first just their cable, but I don't have cable, and then on their YouTube channel. I was laying down in my dorm and was watching just a bunch of Adventure Time clips. And then bam, it just showed up in my recommended feed. And I just fucking fell in love with the short. Because it has this like great blend of adventure and mystery and humor. And then it takes place on a train of all places. And I had also seen like Snowpiercer recently. So maybe that, had something to do with it. But anywho.
Weird correlation, but go on.
I mean, trains, man. Trains.
Trains!
I like trains.
Brown.
So the short that was released, it follows a young girl named Tulip Van Helsing. Let that name sink in. She's 12.
Is she a vampire?
You would think. But no, and it also follows her split personality robot called One, who's made...
Oh my god. I love the crap out of that thing.
The robot, okay, let me give more information, because the robot,
okay.
One of the robots is my favorite character. So, One is made up of two robots. One of them is called Glad One, who is that super optimistic, happy friend you have, and Sad One, the really dreary, emo, macabre friend you have.
Yes.
And my favorite character from the short, and probably going to be from the whole show, is Sad One, who is actually voiced by Dennis himself.
Nice.
So that was great. But for the short, what we're shown is Tulip has been stuck on the train for about a week, and she's just super frustrated with how random the train is. Each of the train seems to go on forever. Each of the rooms seems to be like randomly generated. And she's also frustrated with this mysterious glowing number that has appeared on her hand after she boarded. And that's the whole premise of the show. And if you haven't seen the short, treat yourself and watch it after listening to this episode, because it's amazing, and I don't want to spoil anything else from that short. But as of last month, that short actually has above 4.5 million views on YouTube.
Nice.
Yeah. And actually, after the short premiere, there was an online petition that was started to get the show greenlit.
Ooh.
Yeah, it wasn't even from Cartoon Network. People were just so obsessed with this short because it's amazing, and they're like, "Come on, please, Cartoon Network, get this greenlit." It ended up getting around 57,000 signatures.
Nice.
Yeah, and then on March 11th, 2018, our prayers answered. Cartoon Network officially announced that the show had been greenlit.
Finally. It's like, take my money, god dang it.
Yeah, about a year and a half later, we finally got the news. And then this month, June of the year 2019, we got the full trailer for the show. The trailer for the show was dropped, but actually, in the very fun way they did it, you unlocked the trailer by going to the Infinity Train website and playing the theme on the big synth keyboard that is on the website.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's cool.
It's very cool. It reminded me of, I don't know, did you watch Gravity Falls?
No. I always wanted to, but...
You played Doki Doki Literature Club, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so Gravity Falls kind of did the same thing where it's like part of the consumption of the media involves like doing things outside of the show or the game.
Right.
So for Gravity Falls, like you could go to the websites and there's hidden stuff on the website, or you can inspect source and find hidden elements inside the the website's like code.
Yeah, it's very like interactive and stuff. They did this with in Overwatch when Sombra was released too.
Oh yeah, the Sombra ARGs.
Yeah, so
All right, and so was it with the unlocking the release trailer with this and just the overall moods from the trailer and the short? It just reminded me of Gravity Falls, and I fucking love Gravity Falls so much.
that's a good observation. I'd say like so Gravity Falls mixed with, and hear me out on this one. Chalk Zone.
Oh my god, Chalk Zone! Oh, that's a fucking blast from the past. Every episode
Yeah.
has a freaking music video at the end.
So whenever she goes into a different cart, she's like entering like a new dimension or whatever, and it just gave me Chalk Zone vibes for some reason.
Ooh, no, I can see that. I definitely see that.
Yeah.
But yeah, just the moods in the release trailer, I just have been so on point that now when I hear that synth theme, I just get this chill that runs up my spine.
Nice. Yeah, that's a good theme.
But from the trailer, we got a little more information. We know that Tulip is from Wisconsin, and she is on the train because she was headed to game design camp.
Which will explain why she's so competent,
Yes.
which is refreshing.
Yeah, Tulip as a character is so refreshing. She's like very rational, but she's also like our not a hero,
Yeah. Like, she just wants to get out.
right? That's like, I don't know, like I love heroes, and like George Perez, you know, when he was saying about like people should be heroes and all that, like that was great, but fresh takes on characters are nice, is all.
Yeah. Always welcomed.
But Tulip, after the trailer, reminded me of the first line to that Journey song.
Just a small town girl.
Yep, living in a lonely world. She took the midnight train.
Going anywhere. I get it. All right.
And then between the short and the trailer, we actually see that they've redesigned Tulip and what I like all the human designs later on, I assume. You know, like how most shows do when they go from shorts to full series.
Yeah.
And actually, this is one of the... Normally, I don't like when they change the art style, because I think a big reason they do sometimes is because, like, it helps saves on budget. But this one...
Right.
Right. But this one, I actually really like the new character design. Compared to the original short, it looks kind of less cartoony. And it with that, at least for me, it adds more to, like, this drama and mystery feeling that the show has.
Yeah. You definitely can't have it too cartoonish if you're gonna set up this kind of more serious undertones per se.
Yeah.
So it's nice that they kind of are leaning more towards that direction.
Now, unfortunately, we don't have a release date.
Womp womp womp.
But that only means we will probably get a release date trailer, and I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah. And, I mean, it's greenlit, so it is definitely coming. We don't have to worry about that.
Yeah, the whole existence of the show, for me at least, is like this pleasant surprise that now I have.
Yeah. No, that actually, because I watched the short recently.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember watching the trailer and was kind of interested, but it was until I watched the short. This actually looks really good, and it's on Cartoon Network. I have not watched a Cartoon Network show in a while.
It's been a minute. Look, I like to joke about the death of the cable industry. It's one of those dead horses I'm just constantly beating.
Yes. For good reason.
But like I'm really looking forward to this show. I think the last show I got excited about was We Bare Bears, and it's great. But before that, there was like Legend of Korra, and it was so unfortunate just like what, you know, the trend with the decline of viewership did to that show.
Yeah.
And I'm really holding out hope that Infinity Train doesn't get affected by that.
Oh, I mean, the good part is, so from The Legend of Korra to now, I'm pretty sure companies have realized like the impact of online viewership, and because there's so many streaming services now, that I think those kind of views count,
Ooh.
or at least are noticed nowadays. So I don't think it affects it that much that people aren't watching cable per se.
Okay, I mean, I'm hoping so hard that you're right.
Right? I hope I'm right too. Cause that's I watched We Bare Bears on Netflix because I'm not gonna watch TV.
So, Sal,
Yes.
what did you get excited about this week?
Oof. All right. So this week I got excited about a podcast. It's like Inception. We're talking about a podcast on a podcast.
It's so meta.
If you guys didn't know, we love podcasts. So I got excited about a podcast, but not just any podcast. It is a musical podcast,
Ooh.
which is something that I don't think has been done before. If it has, and you listeners know of some, please send me those right away.
Sal's a big musical junkie. He's going to go see Wicked soon.
Yes, big musical junkie. So this is a musical podcast done by 2UP Productions, which is an entertainment company by the creators of another podcast called Limestone, or Limetown. Which is a story-based podcast just like this one. I haven't heard of it before this, and I still haven't listened to it, but that's because I've kind of been obsessed with 36 Questions, which is the name of this podcast. So it's called 36 Questions. It is written, directed, and composed by Ellen Winter and Chris Litwer.
Triple threat.
When you hear it, and just the writing, directing, and composing is done by two people is kind of insane. But it also stars Jonathan Groff and Jesse Shelton, who are the two main leads. And it is about a couple attempting to bring their marriage back from the brink of divorce using 36 revealing questions designed to make strangers fall in love. It is a podcast that is only 3 episodes long, and it is divided into 3 acts, the acts of a musical, and they're both about an hour long each. So it's a 3-hour long podcast, essentially. It's like going to watch a movie, so it's pretty, you can just listen to it and you don't have to catch up on a million episodes.
And you're not trapped in a theater for 3 hours long like we were for Endgame.
Absolutely. Which, to be fair, being trapped in Endgame isn't the worst thing.
No, Endgame wasn't the worst, but 3 hours is a long time, and that was 3 hours we had to set aside, and the only place we could find it was in the not people hours.
So yeah, that's nice. You can pause it whenever you want. So 36 Questions. The name of this podcast is actually based on a real thing. It is a psychological study written by psychologist Arthur Aaron called, this is a mouthful, it's called The Experimental Generation of Interpersonal Closeness.
Mm-hmm.
Because, people that write papers love their big words. And it was a study that explores whether intimacy between two strangers can be accelerated by having them ask each other a specific series of personal questions that start off simple and get more complex as they go. And at the end of it, you are supposed to stare into each other's eyes for 4 minutes.
Oh.
So, yeah, this is a real thing. If you look up 36 Questions on Google, or I found this information from a New York Times article written by Danielle Jones. This is a real study and real questions. So,
Now,
yeah,
Sal.
you can go look that up. Yes?
Now, Sal, how does the 4 minutes of staring translate in the podcast?
So, the 36 questions thing is divided throughout the entire musical. And so the whole staring is kind of at the very end, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so the staring is led into this like open-ended ending.
Huh.
So they really creatively done that.
How do you hear staring?
You don't.
There we go.
There you go. So yeah, I actually looked at all the questions, and well, most of them get answered in the musical itself. But I was actually doing some research on these questions because it fascinated me, and there's a lot of articles actually about it, but they vary from, man, this actually worked and it made me and my partner fall in love, to this was the worst thing I've ever done.
This killed my love.
Needless to say, this is, there are mixed results. But the podcast is about these two people that actually fell in love with the 36 questions. And when their marriage becomes rocky, they go back to the 36 questions to kind of like reconnect.
Oh, yeah. Go strengthen those foundations.
Yeah, and it's the themes about this podcast are essentially there's no right answer, and like one question can have multiple answers, so things are not as simple as they seem. I listened to this podcast like 3 times.
Nice.
I've also listened to the songs like so many times now. I stopped keeping count.
Oh, actually, that's a good question. Do the songs themselves just have like a separate album people could listen to?
Yes.
All right, perfect.
Which you can find on Spotify along with the podcast. So I actually figured out about the podcast because I'm a huge musical fan. So I was listening to the Wicked soundtrack, and it ended. And you know how Spotify does this thing where once your playlist ends, it will go to like a radio format based on what you were just listening to?
Yeah.
So one of these songs played, and I was like, this is a really good song. What musical is it from? And so I went to it, and I was like, 36 questions, cool. And it's also a podcast, and I was like, what? And so I listened to the first episode and was, hey, this is a musical podcast. And it freaking blew my mind. I don't have to go to a theater to watch this. I'm just going to listen to it now. And it changed my life.
Oh, interesting. The whole idea of like going out to the theater, usually this big event, I viewed as like kind of, I guess, high class, because you can't just like get it anywhere. But then like you have the musical brought to you. I don't know where I'm going with this, but like...
No, it's nice.
Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah. And to people that are kind of skeptical about just listening to a musical and not watching it, this musical does a very good job of setting, you feel like you're there. So I know story-based podcasts aren't new, but the way that they use sound in this podcast, like the sound of rain or wind or, you know, feet tapping along cobblestone as they walk. It gives you such a sense of place that you feel like you're there with them without having to actually see it. And this podcast in particular, which I don't think another podcast has done, the whole podcast is a story told through iPhone voice memos.
Whoa, what?
Yeah. So the idea is these two characters are using voice memos to essentially record themselves going through this situation. And so you just have them, the voice recorder turns on and they're like, this is Judith and I'm now at this person's house or whatever, and we're going to talk or something like that. But it just works really well. And the sense of place is enhanced by them like holding their phone with these voice memos, because you can hear like when they're running and like the phone gets all shaky because like they're trying to run, or the wind hitting the phone a certain way. So it does such a good job of making you feel like you're there and you don't have to see it to understand everything that's going on.
Holy crap. It just sounds like they know they're in an audio medium and they've just like kind of cranked up what they can do to the max.
Yeah.
Dang.
It's so good. And when I first heard it, I was just like in awe because I've never heard something like this before. This podcast came out in 2017 and I was so sad that I didn't hear about it beforehand. When it first came out, I would have been all over this and promoting it like crap. But also, so another thing that I love about this podcast, of course, is the music. I don't think you can love a musical without loving the music, so let me talk about that real quick. The whole podcast, is voiced and sung by just these two characters, so it has the disadvantage of not having like a whole cast of characters, but it has the advantage of just having these two characters in this intimate kind of moment. So each of the songs are either duets or solos of these characters, and the composers actually lean more on like the acoustic side of things. So there's like a lot of piano, guitar, and more like simple and mellow beats, not like these over the top like orchestra pieces that you tend to hear with these singers belting out these amazing high notes, which isn't to say that's not amazing in its own right, but I think this was like deliberately done because it's supposed to be a more like close, intimate experience. And so I think they nailed it on that.
Oh, dang. It's just like you just keep telling me about their usage of sound. It just seems to enhance every little bit of it.
Yes! I'm glad I'm doing this explaining justice, because I was worried I wouldn't. It's so good to listen to. You just have to, it's an experience for sure. And so if you're a little weary about this, the podcast actually has a like 0.1 episode where they give you a little snippet of, what the musical's about. But also I have a list of some of my favorite songs if you want to get like a taste.
A sampler.
Yeah. So, the podcast or the musical is 36 questions. Songs I would recommend are One Thing, For the Record, and We Both. Those are all very great songs. The musical has so many songs that are great, but if you want to get a taste of what I think are the best.
How many songs are on the whole album?
13.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Just hearing that this was directed, written, composed by just two people. Wow.
Yeah, it's fantastic. And this was actually the Studio 2 Up. This was their like first project. To do a musical podcast as their first project, hoping it did well, seemed like a very risky move.
It's optimistic, to say the least.
Yeah, but I think it did well. I don't have any numbers, but they have a new podcast out called The Wilderness, so I'm assuming 36 Questions did well if they have something else they're doing, and they still do Limetown, which is on its second season because it's also a story thing.
Audio drama.
Yeah, and it gets a lot of good reviews. It was actually had a Wired and New York Times article about it, so I mean, from what I understand, it did really well. So definitely they took this risk and they freaking nailed it. The idea of having a musical podcast seemed so bizarre, but now that it's done well, I would love to see other people try to do it.
This really does seem like a gem because, like, there's so many podcasts now, right? Like, podcasts, you could throw, a stone and hit a podcast. And then...
Hopefully ours.
But, like, in the sea of podcasts, this one seems so unique.
Yeah. And we've talked about that in the past. Like, there's a podcast for everything.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't really grasp that saying until you find something like this. And you're like, oh, there is a podcast for everything.
I didn't grasp that until I went to PodCon and realized there were a bunch of murder-themed podcasts.
Yay, I love true crime. But yeah, so 36 questions. That's what I was excited about. And everyone should go check it out.
And that was what we got excited about this week. Thank you so much for joining us and enthusing with us. If you like what you heard, consider sharing it with a buddy so you can nerd out together. If you'd like to help out the show, then a review on our iTunes or Stitcher pages would go a long way toward podcast visibility. If you have any recommendations for the show, feel free to put them in the comments of our SoundCloud page. If you want to see pictures from our recent amazing Las Vegas Comic-Con coverage, we've got lots of cool cosplay on there, and we got to meet really cool people. Or you just want to see our faces for some crazy reason, check out our Instagram. If you like what we do here on Those Nerds Over There and want to help produce the show, then consider becoming a patron. It's thanks to the support of our patrons that we get to make this show. And if you want a place to hang out with us, feel free to join our Discord. We have dedicated for topic recommendations, show improvements, nut jar offerings, and just kind of episode debates too. Links to all these pages can be found on our website, thosenerdscast.wixsite.com/home. That's WIXSITE for Wix site. Sal, do you have anything to plug?
Yes. So you can find me on social media at Salzik on Twitter, at Mr. Salzik on Instagram, Salzik on Twitch, which I'll be getting back to that stream eventually. Suspiria and Friends on Twitch as well. That's my friend's Twitch channel that I'm always on Thursdays. And you can go on my blog, gotamoment.com.
You can find me on Twitter at ArielEyes_. I do not post all that much, but it's a good way to get in contact with the show. Or you can always message us at Those Nerdscast on Twitter. Thank you again so much for listening, and we'll see you again next Wednesday.
Goodbye.